There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With over 140 channels in your vehicle, your all-access trial includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.
So when it comes to motorcycle audio, there are few brands that can keep up with the selection and performance of Euphoria, especially with the partnerships that they have in place for product development. It really makes them a force to be reckoned with in the category. Today, we welcome their trainer, Susano Garza Jr., as we talk about everything Euphoria motorcycle audio. This is CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. Euphoria motorcycle audio starts now. What's going on, everybody, and thanks for tuning into this CMA Connected session. I'm your host, Ben Wu. So we're talking about motorcycle audio, and of course, Euphoria is a big name in the game. They are, of course, part of their parent company, DB Research, also known for DB Drive, and their Canadian distributor, Importel, is going to be joining us today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome their 12-volt specialist, Romesh Kalusagaram, who will be co-hosting with me today.
Hey, Ben, how you doing?
Greetings, Romesh. How are you today?
Very good. Thanks for having us on again.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when we came to motorcycle audio, I mean, obviously you guys had to, come to the party because obviously Euphoria is kind of a big deal. So needless to say, Euphoria offers a very complete offering for the motorcycle audio enthusiast, right? But what are you most excited about what we're going to go over today?
It is a comprehensive line. Over the years, it started sort of like I would think a lot of other brands have started getting into the category. They started modifying some of their pro audio type product to make it more resistant to the elements and to put on bikes to get over top of a lot of the exhausts and things like that. And it's continued to evolve. And you're asking about what's exciting. We'll be going through the Euphoria Expert line in detail, and that is pretty exciting.
Yeah, the Expert line certainly has a lot of following behind it. It's got a lot of, I'll even call it hype, because it's quite special as to what it offers. So if I'm going to ask you, based on customer feedback from what you hear on the phones with Importel, why do you feel Euphoria has the following or is as popular as it is in the segment?
Well, I think what their offerings are really unique, and if they've got unique partnerships with motorcycle-centric companies in the United States. I think we'll see a lot of media posts and stuff that we'll be showing today from the guys, Scott Owens and the guys down at Insane Asylum. And that partnership, Susano, will, or as we call him, Junior, will get into the details of that and how it's really helped shape the product that they're coming out with. So it's product that's designed by bike guys, for bike guys. So they understand they're not making something on the design board or in the boardroom that isn't relevant to pushing the envelope with bikes and what's being installed right now and what consumers want.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much street cred taken to the next level. There's no doubt about it. Listen,
Yeah.
We have Susano Garza Jr. from Euphoria, who's in the house today. He's going to be training us on that. But before we do that, I thought we'd set the mood. We've got a cool video that kind of really gives a taste to those who don't know this brand, what it's all about. We'll start with that. We'll roll the tape and we'll be back with Susano after.
Let's do it.
Man, so much going on in that little video clip that says so much. The first two things I want to get out of the way and kind of set the precedence here. I mean, again, multi different type of applications for these kind of products on the pro level, on the weather resistant type of level. But I noticed something at the end. That was one that was built by somebody that's quite popular in the industry, isn't it, Junior?
Yeah, that was actually built by Scott Owens. You know, when everybody talks about motorcycle audio, Scott's the guy, you know, to go to for any type of advice. So naturally, what we did is we went to Scott and asked him, hey, what do you guys have missing from motorcycle? What do you guys need? So, you know, after back and forth, constant, you know, work, he basically told us what he needed, and we built everything, you know, catered to him. Now, another thing that we didn't do is we didn't grab a speaker and say, hey, this is now marine. No, everything that we have is specifically engineered. Like I said, we played a lot with the pro audio part of it, but making it to where it would be a marine grade speaker. So everything that we have performs very, very well, especially in open area, which is what you basically need in any type of motorcycle, any type of side-by-side, anything that you may want to put it in. I know we're gearing towards motorcycles, but this is truly universal for anything that you want to put it on.
Yeah, outdoor basically, right? So can you help us
Correct.
understand a little bit about that relationship? Because I think that's really interesting between you and Insane Asylum, between Euphoria and Insane Asylum, rather.
Well, yeah, basically what it was is, like I said, we wanted to grab, you know, info from the people that are doing it right. And we asked them, what are you missing and what can we improve on? You know, there's a lot of great companies that make motorcycle audio, but we just wanted to have something that was different and that met the needs of everybody, and basically, you know, give something to everybody that was missing something before. So that's why a lot of our, you know, woofers, or a lot of our mid basses, a lot of the stuff that nobody had, we were kind of the first to get something that would work in a motorcycle, to fit, to perform more than anything.
Excellent. I'd like to hear your insight on that, Ramesh, before we dive into the presentation from a Canadian perspective.
Right. So, I mean, when I said earlier that there's kind of a wide variety of motorcycle solutions, the Euphoria line built on top of the WDX Moto line. The WDX Moto, which is a different line in the DB line, the WDX line, the Motos, while they were, I guess you could kind of call it more towards mild because you were just putting a 6.5 in a 6.5 location. They were really different from anything else that was available because they're based off a pro audio speaker, but they were kind of a marinized pro audio speaker. So high sensitivity, lots of output, hard dome tweeters, really, really, really high output in that category. And that was kind of, I guess, where a lot of the solutions that are available on the market are, is in that kind of mild where people just want to replace speakers. And then the Euphoria line came out, and it is really insane. And Insane Asylum with some of the stuff that they make, which is insane. You know, 10s and 8s and mid range, like, you know, mid ranges and stacked with mid basses, and that's where this line builds on it, right? So we're really offering something, like Susano was saying earlier, that you couldn't get out of most of the traditional motorcycle brands, right? Which doesn't make it wrong. It's a different customer, but there's this other customer over here, kind of like SPL or Pro Audio. You know what? This is like Pro Audio for bikes. That's probably the best analogy.
Pretty interesting analogy. Now, right. I did notice in our pre-discussion that this line is quite deep. So let's dive in. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to cover here. I know, Junior, you've got some product with you as well. We've got a presentation, so we'll kind of go back and forth. And let's go ahead and put up the presentation, dive right in to Euphoria Expert. So let's start off real quick. So, like, why Euphoria? Why Expert? Why is it a different brand and logo altogether?
Well, it's different for the simple fact that it was geared to a different customer. Euphoria is basically our flagship product. It's what we take the most pride of. We like to only do dealers, so it's not something that's heavily distributed. The reason we work through Importel is because that's a whole other country. So Importel has their network of dealers. They're trusted dealers. They're not people that are gonna do bad by the product. So that's why Euphoria, and that's why we did it with Expert into the Euphoria.
And just to be clear, and in the U.S., it's a limited distribution
Another
channel.
main reason
For in the U.S., it's a limited
yes,
distribution
in the
channel?
U.S., yes, it's mainly dealer direct. We do have some areas where we do have to unfortunately distribute it, and I don't say unfortunately in a bad way. I just say that's the best way to get the product out to people. We'd like to have everybody direct, but hey, distributors have their place, and everybody that we pick to distribute it is doing very, very well with it. They're keeping it offline. They're basically keeping the brand clean the way we like it.
Yeah, because I know that you guys are quite protective of this brand in particular, so I wanted to get that
Yes.
out there. Okay, here we go. Let's get in.
Okay, that right there is our new woofer. It's a neodymium woofer. It's got great power. Believe it or not, that those 1,000 watts, it actually handle them RMS. If you give it the right amount of power with the right tuning, that woofer is incredible. If you look at our DB drive line, kind of going back to that, what we wanted is something, a lot of people were trying to put those woofers in, motorcycles, but you have a DB drive woofer with a magnet that's huge. This doesn't really work well in a bag because of the weight, the vibration, everything there. So we basically got something that handled this type of power and a way lighter weight, maybe even half the weight, it feels like.
Oh, you
in a
can almost
woofer.
hold that with one hand. You are holding it
Oh,
with
yeah.
one
He's,
hand.
he's palming it.
Yep. Yeah, check that out.
That's so weird. It looks so beefy and bulky, but you can hold it with one hand.
Oh yeah, carbon fiber cone. So it's stiff. It handles a lot of power. Rubber surround. It's a well engineered woofer. Like I said, this woofer will actually outdo our G5 and our WDX, which is a huge woofer. In the WDX line. So, I mean, that's what we basically needed to be able to put it in a bag or put it in a motorcycle. So, like I said, that's something that actually we worked with very well with Scott to get that going.
Very cool. There's not a whole lot of subwoofers in the market that have neodymium magnets. So this is definitely one of the fewer ones. But for a specific purpose and a specific application. I'd love to. I mean, is sealed or infinite baffle type woofers? What do you recommend?
They can actually work either way. What we honestly recommend for this is a nice little vented enclosure. Believe it or not, venting those little bags work very, very well.
Okay.
And it'll work in the field too. So it's pretty much, you can use it in anything. Okay, and that right there is our 8-inch carbon fiber woofer. It's got the 10 neodymium ring magnet, which is basically, I'm gonna grab the 6.5, but it's all your neodymium magnets lined up perfectly. You got your carbon fiber cone, your rubber surround, which is very, very good for weatherproofing. Now, I know what a lot of people are saying. You guys used to have a paper cone speaker. Why the carbon fiber? Well, it's actually for two big reasons. The carbon fiber stiffens up the cone, and and apart from that, of course, it's also a lot more weather resistant. But it also allows you to handle more power because it's a little bit heavier to move. So it's you lose a little bit of the sensitivity, but these things are so sensitive that it really doesn't matter.
I'm going to assume that everything we're going to touch on today is pretty high efficiency when it comes to sensitivity.
Oh yes, it's very, very efficient.
Right. So this is a mid-range. What we saw previously
Was a woofer.
Was a woofer. More like, I guess we call it low bass. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not technically, I guess, a subwoofer because
No, this one actually is a subwoofer, Romesh.
Okay.
We have this in a mid bass. Yeah, this is an actual subwoofer. Now we do have the new model that came out, that's an 8-inch mid bass.
Okay. That's
And
what I'm
the reason for the mid bass part of it is a lot of the guys that compete, once you put a subwoofer, it turns them into a different category, but a mid bass sticks them in something else. So we kind of needed to have both for those guys that compete very heavily in the motorcycle audio part of it. So we do have both available.
Okay.
And that's basically the 6.5 that I was showing right now.
Just mid-range.
This is a mid-range, correct?
So I'm looking at this power handling, and the power handling for this is a 6.5-inch mid-range that's able to take 200 watts.
Correct, and that's RMS power.
I'm really interested to see the power output of the amplifiers once we get to that, to see how these match.
Oh yeah.
Ramesh, what is the demand from the customer side of things when it comes to this higher price point neodymium stuff? Like, do they get it that it costs more?
So to give you an idea, when the first set of Expert Series speakers launched, it had launched, I think, right before the March 2020 and all the things changing in the world. That's about right, Junior, right? It was around that spring of 2020.
It was around
right?
there, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had orders in house before we even had the part number built or anything, like even in the barn down there to even come up here. So for the guys that knew and that are building these bikes with custom bags, and they're ordering these crazy fiberglass, I call them monstrosities because they're fantastically awesome, and they're doing the custom airbrushing. The demand is huge because there's nothing exactly like this. And then with what they're doing down at Insane Asylum, and with all of the competitions that they're winning and things like that, you don't have to kind of try to figure out how to engineer your system. You have a blueprint of what works, because they're using the Expert Series amplifiers and they're using the Expert Series speakers. So if you've gone down to a show and you've listened to it or you've seen it, you just add to cart, copy paste, right?
Yep.
Okay, we've moved on to a two-way system.
Correct. Now what it is that is our 8-inch carbon fiber XL model, neodymium with a compressed driver. I don't have that one with me, but I have something similar in a 6.5. So what it is what's the best way to get sound up in the front fairing is have your mid bass or mid range, I'm sorry, with your compression horn all in one. Now we also include a crossover, which a lot of people don't. Now the cool thing about the crossover is that even though you want to bi-amp them, which is possible because you have your separate connections for your compression driver and your separate connection for the mid-range, even though you're going to bi-amp them, you can basically still remove the crossover and just use it for the compression driver, which is very recommended. I don't recommend running the compression driver without the crossover unless you're really, really going to get into dialing it in. But even at that, you have people that kind of tweak with stuff. I always recommend the crossover. But like I said, you can basically run it either way. And then you got your neodymium magnet, which is, it looks big because I'm putting it close, but it's actually pretty small.
I mean, that is a monster-looking setup right there. Like, there's not a whole lot of stuff in the industry that looks quite like this one. 650-watt power handling is blowing my mind a little bit right now.
Well, and it'll actually do it. I mean, we made this specifically to basically outdo anything out in the market. Like I said, when we got with Scott, he basically told us we need something that can just blow everything out of the water. And that's basically what we did with these speakers.
Okay.
And okay.
This is an 8-inch. Cool. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the one before it was an 8 as well. This is an 8. The only difference is that this is stamped steel. Now, believe it or not, it makes a big difference when you're trying to put them in fairings, because a lot of the fairings, that little extra part of the cast where the stamp is further in makes a big difference in it fitting or not fitting. So this is something that was actually done after the fact for that simple reason that we couldn't get some of our 8s to fit in some people's fairings or the lowers for that matter. So the best way to do it is we basically made it in a stamp basket, and it's been working wonders with you know, a lot of the universal, you know, lowers and fairings and stuff like that.
I'm curious that there is a drop in the power handling just from a change into the stamped steel basket. I'm curious what is the reasoning for that?
Thermal.
The stiffening of it, and since it's the thermal's a little bit different.
Gotcha. Is this a lower price point as well when you go from?
Yes, it
the
does
basket
drop a
to the stamped
little
steel?
bit in price. Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's a little bit of savings in there for sure.
Correct. And
Okay.
like I said, the main part is that it fits.
Right. But as far
It
as the
still has
tweeter
that.
assembly and the crossovers, that's the same componentry, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, and right there is our new mid bass. Now that is a mid bass. That's not a woofer. If you notice, the structure of the magnet is a little bit different. It's kind of geared more towards like the mid range that we have, where it has the separate magnets. See how it's a 15-piece, that one? Based on, like I said, the reason that we did that is that a lot of people needed it to be able to compete in certain categories. That will still produce a very, very low frequency, but it's still a true mid bass.
A 10-inch
not a
mid
woofer.
bass. 10-inch.
Correct.
Very,
10.
Think
very
pro
interesting.
audio, Ben. Think to your DJ.
I know,
Yep.
but I just look at that and I'm looking at 800 watts and I'm thinking my face is going to melt. That's all I'm thinking. That's crazy. Like, these are not normal numbers or stats. You know what I'm saying?
No,
like
they're definitely
I'm trying to
not.
process it all. Okay. Let's keep going. Oops, sorry. I went up too far. There you go.
Yep. And that's just a side profile of it. If you notice the type of connectors we use on it, and you know, it's
a really high-end looking piece, Junior. I'm not gonna lie. You know, with that first of all, the carbon fiber cone. Second of all, that really thick surround and the trim plate around it, the basket, the terminals. I mean, everything about it screams high-end.
Yeah, no, and like I said, this is geared for that guy that wants the best. I mean, that truly is the best mid bass out in the market right now. I mean, not to say that there's not other good stuff out there, but I mean, when we geared this stuff, we geared it to be the best.
Well, if it sounds like it looks, yeah, pretty darn impressive.
Well, when you think
I
of
can tell you it's
what
very
these guys,
impressive.
like some of these guys are, you know, just talking to a friend yesterday, you know, they're punching out engines, they're spending, you know, crazy amounts of money, you know, like punching stuff out to 130 cubic inches, and they're doing custom paint, and the audio system has to keep up, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Most of the stuff is so over the top. When it comes to audio, it's got to be over the top as well.
Well, especially when you pull in the lot and your buddy's got, you know, 10 steps higher than you do in audio.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's like boats. Yeah, same thing.
So, continuing the mid basses.
Yep, and that's our 8-inch version of the 10-inch mid bass. So it still handles tons of power. Basically, you can fit it just about anywhere. Like I said, the same thing. Even the mid basses, with the right venting, you can actually get the, you know, like a little ported style vented box. You can get these things to perform and play at real low frequencies, which is surprising. Let me tell you, once you hear them in person, it's something totally different.
Okay. Again, super beefy. Wow.
Oh yeah.
This is another close-up, I imagine, of that 8-inch.
Yeah, that's a close-up of the 8-inch. Yep.
You know, when a customer is going to buy it and they unbox this stuff and they see the quality and they see the finish, I mean, that's all part of the whole thing, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look at the finish on this carbon fiber. I mean, it's, I mean, almost flawless if you could see it.
Well, we're going to come back to that for sure when we finish this. I have some more questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we're now into the tweeters now. Talk to us about these bullet tweeters.
Okay, now this is a bullet tweeter that was actually, you know, this is one of the ones that they asked us for. The reason this tweeter is geared this way is because a lot of bullet tweeters are so deep, it's hard to actually mount them inside the fairings. So they'll hit on, you know, whatever's back there, and there really wasn't a true bullet tweeter that could fit. So what we did is we engineered this tweeter to where you can slide in and out almost 3/4 of an inch of a difference, and make this thing as as shallow as one inch, and I want to say it's 1 1/8.
Wow.
So this, you can move it back, mount it, whichever way. You can swivel it, and it'll fit there. So
Very cool.
you have
adjustable,
unlimited adjustability on it. See? Whatever
Very cool.
thickness you may need, if you're putting it on fit, if you're mounting it and fairing, like I said, you can move it back and front. It's almost 3/4 of an inch adjustable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good.
And
for the
of course
installer.
and of course the power handling's there. I mean, I seen people put 100 watts RMS on these things, and they'll take it all day. Like I said, I do recommend you using the base blocker that comes with it, or just for added security.
And this is also a neo magnet for the bullet tweeter.
Correct. Just about everything in the expert line, we use neo.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And the reason for it is, I mean, that's going to be your best performing magnet that there is out there for the size. You know what I mean? There's nothing that performs better. And in reality, neo is just the way to go right now.
It is. It is absolutely.
And that is our 1.5 inch horn. It's got the same bases. We made it shallow, but it's a 1.5 inch horn that if you got space, that thing will perform.
What seems to be the more popular choice in this category, Junior, between those two?
To be truthfully honest, what a lot of people are using right now is the bullet style.
The bullet
And
style.
the reason for it is, the reason for it is the horn is very, very nice sounding, but that the bullet style facing towards you and your fairing, I mean, there's nothing like it once you're driving 80 miles an hour with a Harley engine going, it really does pierce through the wind noise and everything else.
Which is half the battle when it comes to these open environments, right? We're not in a controlled, closed environment with reflections. We're open air. So, here we go. We're getting into amplifiers now.
Yep. Now, check that out. That is our 1K 1,000-watt amplifier. Now, if you see this is how small it is.
Oh, it's like a phone.
Yeah, I'm having it. Yeah, I mean, this is an older iPhone, but it's a small one, just a little bit bigger, 1,000 watts. Now, what makes our amplifiers very, very different than everybody else's is that we never dial back on the crossover. If you notice, the first thing that we put up on there, which we're very proud of, is that we have a selectable low pass, band pass, and high pass crossover. Now, I know band pass is not something that airs all the time because it's actually expensive to make, and if you don't know what it does, well, then it's never heard of. But what the cool thing about the bandpass is that on the bandpass part of it, you can select bandpass and you have frequency cutoffs. Instead of it being that's all it gets to, on the lower end, you're going to cut off your frequency at let's say 80 hertz for a mid bass, but you don't want it to play higher than 200, so you go to 200 on the high end. So it'll basically play everything from 80 through 200 with the bandpass crossover. So instead of it just being a fixed, frequency, you're basically giving it a range,
which really can make
so
you're
doing your cutoff on the low end, and your cutoff.
You'll be able to really fine tune.
Correct.
Right, like in cases where you're using a mid, where you don't, where you don't want it playing either too high or too low because it has a efficiency range you want to stay in, like Junior was saying, you're now able to do that. Whereas before, you'd either have to use a DSP or an electronic crossover inline to try and cut those frequencies out, right? Or if you wanted to run this only to run the subwoofer that we saw earlier, right? Then you'd be able to use it as a just with the low pass, or if you were running mid-range and higher, or tweeters, right? You'd be able to high pass it. So with 1 amp, you can still use the passive or the bass blocker as the safety in case you mess up a setting or you do something wrong, because it's very rare that the crossovers and the amplifiers fail. it's usually a user error. So having that little extra there is, is great, but you're able to fine tune everything. If you're using a calibration device, you'll be able to use the amplifier crossovers. So,
and it's got
right,
both
that's
the in and out. It's got the in and out as well.
Yep.
For the
so
input.
if you have like a couple amplifiers,
Yeah, you can go in from one, out the other. Yep.
Very cool. And these are
Been caught
conformally
that.
coded as well, right? Just I know we said it, but I want to make sure that anybody's tuning into this part of the presentation. Okay. More power.
And then we have, more power, and it's more channels. So we still keep the bandpass crossover built into it. Still relatively small for it being a 4-channel amplifier with that type of power.
4 times 200 though, at
yes.
4 ohm. Yeah, that's a beefcake.
Yes, at 4 ohm. Yep. So, like I said, like everybody likes more power. As Ben said.
One thing I wanted to point out on that earlier
Class
slide,
D.
I don't know. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No, sorry. Was that 1K? Normally, when we see mono and 1K, we automatically in the industry or in our brains as car audio enthusiasts, we always think it's a mono block and it's only there to drive subs, right? So because like the full range nature of that is relatively unique. Not unique, but relatively. There are very few motorcycle applications out there where you have a Class D mono that'll play above 500
play
hertz
full range. Yeah,
or
gotcha.
200 hertz.
And the reason for it is that a lot of these motorcycles, you don't have staging. There's no front, there's no rear, there's no right or left. So all you need is basically a 4 range. If you could put your 4, let's say mid ranges on amp, and then run your other 4 tweeters on another amp, and you're good to go. So you're tuning them all at the frequency range that they require, and it's set it and go.
I noticed this one also has a remote out for. Is that a bass control knob? I'm guessing, or
it's ready for one.
Okay.
Yeah, in case you use, let's say, like the rear channels as a subwoofer or something like that, it'll work for that too.
Okay.
And
4
like
times
like we were talking earlier on the previous one, on our previous all these amplifiers are actually used a lot in vehicles as well. So a lot of these guys will grab one of these amplifiers and use them in.
We were
like,
discussing that in the
say,
office yesterday, actually.
I'm going to ask you the
know,
question then. How does this sound different from the regular DB line from a sound perspective?
Like I said, the crossovers on these are done a little bit more fine-tuned. This is more geared towards, like Romesh said, it's more like a pro audio style.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main difference on it. That's why they're full range Class Ds.
Okay.
So we were actually, to sort of jump in on that, for dealers out there listening, it's interesting because the sales on these amplifiers have been really robust. And as we were opening the sales, because often guys are ordering sets and you can see what they're ordering, they're ordering DB Automotive product with with one of the Expert Series amplifiers. And clearly, I mean, they're ordering a base crate. It's not going to fit in a motorcycle. A base crate's like the size of a small child, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're powering it with one of these because they've already used them before and they know that they just have tons of output. And then the ability to filter, not everything in the DB line has this level of filtering. So they're not less expensive necessarily than the other amps that we had in stock that they could have purchased.
But they're not insanely overpriced either. Yeah.
Right. They're not the same price, but they've got more performance and they feel comfortable just going, man, I've used this. I know the settings. I'm just going to use it in the car. It's fine. And because we literally got into this discussion, just more of a philosophical discussion in the office yesterday about the amplifiers. They're physically a smaller footprint than most in the line.
Is
for that much power, for that much RMS power. So you got these conformal coded boards that you pay a little bit more for. You've got more adjustability, which means that your system design flexibility as a consumer or a dealer is higher because you have more options with that one amplifier. You can do more things. And then physical size, is they're not as big sometimes as some of the other amplifiers are. Like
and big power,
like from Euphoria, like same brand, same company,
right?
Just not Expert series versus Euphoria series.
I'm just blown away by some of these numbers I'm looking at here. That right there is a 4x400 at 4 ohm. Like that's a beefcake amp, man.
And that's RMS power.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the next slide here.
Okay, and that's right there's our coolest little amplifier. I mean, that's my personal favorite. I've actually put about 3 of those in my in my daily vehicles, and let me tell you, they handle. You got your 4 channels, you know, for your mids and highs. Same thing, low pass, band pass, or high pass crossovers, and then you got a true subwoofer output of 500 watts to your subwoofers.
And I'm going to ask the question now before waiting to the end. How are we looking on inventory on these multi-channel amplifiers?
You know what? On all these amplifiers, Expert is something that we always have plenty of stock of. We keep plenty of it because it just moves like crazy. So as anything selling, we have more coming in. So we're always
good. That's good. So multi-channel amplifiers in stock is a good thing. That's a good thing. Popularity of the 5-channel, Ramesh.
Sell tons in cars. I think in my experience, like selling to dealers, doing system design, they've actually opted for more than one. But I think it's just more than one amplifier. So not the 5 in the bike, but I don't know that I've been talking to someone that needed that in a build specifically.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? But we're selling, I mean, we're moving them. Like they keep running, they keep selling through and we keep reordering. So I'm just not sure if they're all going into bikes or some are going into boats or if some are going into side-by-sides or if they're all going into Harleys, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a nice little amp for a boat too.
Man, that's a nice little amp for everything. Like even
pretty
in a car, like
and for everyday use.
One amp system right there. Boom, done.
Yep.
It's just tons of jam. The issue often with a lot of the multi-channel amps or 5-channel plus amps is if either they don't have a lot of power or if they do have a lot of power, sometimes they just price out of the realm of that particular consumer's range. And these kind of fall into that kind of, I don't know, I'll call it a soft spot, if you will, in between.
And I'm going to ask you to please disregard the specifications on that. That's actually a 2x900 watt at 4 ohm amplifier.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I guess I copy and pasted from the 4-channel, but
so this is a 2-channel though.
That's a 2-channel 900 by 2.
EX 9.2.
Yep.
All right. Again, with all the same features as before, with the high pass, low pass. And then the other thing I kind of appreciate are also the connections. Like these all come off one shot, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you mean? They're removable?
Are they removable?
No.
Oh, they're not removable. Okay.
No.
They look modular, so I wasn't sure. Okay.
No.
Very cool. Let's go. All right, so let's take this down. All right. I want to circle back to a couple of things here. If you can bring back that 8-inch carbon woofer that you had in the beginning there.
Sure.
I had some questions about this.
This bad boy.
So if a guy is doing a system and I mean, it looks beautiful. If you could just show the basket real quick, I wanted to it's a pretty deep, that's pretty deep, right, Ramesh? Like that's a deep unit right there. My question is this. Is this customer more enthralled with the mid bass, or are they looking to go down deep with the subs? Because I noticed, there's a lot of mid bass in this category.
It really depends on what they're trying to accomplish. This will play low frequencies. You can get responses all the way down to the 30s, whereas your mid basses are more comfortable in the 80s. So it really just depends on how much space they have and what they're trying to accomplish. But we just wanted to make sure we had something for everything. So that's why we have a woofer and then we have the mid bass.
So in some bikes, if they're retaining the factory head unit for various connectivity reasons with, headset, Bluetooth and stuff in the helmet and whatever, and they're trying to retain what they have, the factory radio in some cases, depending on the model and the trim, CVO, non-CVO, blah, 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 blah. 13 and under, 14 and up. The frequency response range that's actually being output from the radio, in some cases, there's nothing below 80 or 60.
Like it's a factory crossed over at that. And
it's factory killed. It's just dead.
Killed it.
It's
okay.
just like there's zero, right? So if you don't do a head unit lobotomy, right, and swap that out, then you don't have it anyways. Because the fact, like, you never had it, right? And I think and I might be over presuming. I think part of it is below that frequency range with pipes, and if you've got, like zombie killers and whatever pipes you're running, I don't know, like you're gonna need a whole bunch to get over, like you were talking about earlier, Ben. You've got the noise, you got a lot of pipe noise, because hardly anybody uses stock pipes. They only do one thing. They do an air cleaner, air filter, and a set of pipes, right? And they try to pick up some little tube. That increases, that increases your audio output, audible output of the pipes, but it also cancels with low bass in the audio system. So, what do you gain? So if you're not changing the audio system or the radio, in a lot of cases, you may not have any information, I think below 80 or 60, I can't remember the number, but anyways, into the low bass region, at which point mid bass is just give me more, because I want to hear over all that. Just give me more. Just give me
Understood.
more.
So sorry, go ahead.
And something that I wanted to add really quickly, on our Euphoria line, this is not a complete expert product, but another cool thing that we did make this year that nobody else has available that I know of yet, on our DSP, our new DSP, which is the eDSP 31-68. It's the only DSP that we know of right now that all the channels you can basically select one. Most of them have a fit an 8th channel where you have to use them for subwoofer. Ours is not. They're open, which is very, very big with the motorcycle guys right now, because like Romesh said, a lot of them are not using subwoofers. So you can grab all 8 outputs and run whatever frequency range you want on them. In other words, they're not fixed. 7 and 8 are not fixed on our DSP. That's on our new model.
Very, very cool. Here's something I learned on this one. I want to just have this quick dialogue before we close up the show. What I think Euphoria Expert represents is kind of like the dark arts, if you talk about magic. Okay, I know this is weird. Just follow me where I'm going with this. Okay, sure. Not every customer I'm going to talk about a boat for a second. Not everybody coming in with a boat necessarily wants the white grills and the disco lights. Nothing against that. I know you have product for that. We've talked about it. What I'm saying is this is like the dark arts, right? This is the stuff that's like, you want loud, you want I don't care necessarily how it looks. I want when I go out on the water, when I go out in the woods, when I have my friends over, I want their face to bleed.
Like if you want to hear audio on this bike from 6 blocks away,
you know what I mean?
Like you'll hear it.
Like there's that kind of customer. And I think this speaks to that customer.
Check that out. That's a 10-inch compression driver. Like you're saying, this is about
put that loud on a boat. Put 4 of those on a boat.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, it's done. It's over. Like if you took, if you went under the bench, right, and you built a really nice enclosure in the bottom of the bench that you, I guess, affixed or interfaced into that fiberglass facing. You could put 4 10s and it would be redonkulous.
I'm just saying.
It'd be a party. It'd be a party from
take
across
the marine
way.
product. Yes, there's some great marine product. You guys make some yourself, the different tower speakers. But then take that product and be creative with it. My God, it just it was just another level of stuff. And that I use boat as an example, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. From a dealer perspective, you have that, I'm going to call it more commercially packaged type stuff for these applications. This allows you to take it to that next level on a more custom side of things.
You just gave me an idea, actually. You could build a trailer.
I have a customer that has
little
a
car trailer,
outrageous
like
outrageous
4
trailer.
drivers and an amp and a battery and quick connect.
Yeah. Anything? I'm going to leave you the last words here. Any last message you have for dealers or watching this and seeing this crazy product for the first time? What message do you have for them, Junior?
Don't be scared. Do whatever you want to with the product. It's going to perform. And not only is it going to perform well and be loud, it's going to, like I've always said, it's going to be the cleanest stuff that you'll ever hear.
Very, very cool. And if you had to choose 3 SKUs for guys or stores to get inventory with or to start with, what would you say would be the fastest movers?
I would say our 6.5 with the compressed horn build. Like I said, run the crossover with it. You should never have any issues. Always have our 1K amplifier. This thing is, like Romesh said, you could put it in a car, you can put it in a bike, you can put it in a boat, anything is going to work. And from there, I would recommend our DSP if you're going to get into that fine tuning. Like, there's no way you can go wrong with that DSP.
Very, very cool.
Our new DSP also, before I forget, it's also now you can program it through Bluetooth, and you can actually stream. You don't need a head unit anymore. The Bluetooth also works as your main source.
So Bluetooth built in, so you can use it as a source unit now, and then you have the DSP to be able to have a fully active.
This DSP is across for everything, right? Car, motor, like everything.
Yeah,
right?
it's yeah.
Maybe we can circle back to that maybe a little bit later on in the season when we do some car audio talk. But yeah, absolutely cool.
Definitely.
Junior, thanks so much for coming in today and showing us all the goodies and blowing my mind a little bit as far as this category is concerned. It's really unique and hardcore, and I like both those kind of terms. So awesome, man. Thanks for coming in. All right. I mean, that was awesome that Susano came on and really went through that thorough presentation. You weren't wrong. We knew there was a lot to cover, Ramesh. I mean, that was pretty darn extensive.
It's incredible. The depth of that line, the width of that line is insane. I mean, anything from mild to wild, they've got it covered from, just two speakers in the fairing right out till 10 speakers and DSP. So
100%. And you mentioned the word wild, and I think the relationship that Euphoria Expert has with Insane Asylum, really reinforces the wild part. And I'd like to hear your thoughts. And now that you've seen the stories and the relationship, how you feel, how clutch that relationship is between Insane Asylum and Euphoria moving forward.
Well, I think that relationship, I mean, having someone in the trenches daily building, pushing the envelope from wild to wilder is really, really important because they're getting firsthand input as to what the market needs and what they need to continue to stay ahead, because they are building some of the craziest, motorcycles out there. So that relationship is how actually some of the new products that were released late last year came out, like the new carbon fiber coned Expert Series speakers. They needed more than a mid. They needed a mid bass, something that was going to play lower. Not a subwoofer, because we already had subwoofers, but something in between that was going to get us, to dig lower. And that was in direct input from the guys at Insane Asylum and Scott Owens. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you, on the hot seat a little bit. If I'm a dealer and I want to, don't worry, I think you know the answer for this one. If I was a dealer and I wanted to try something from Euphoria line, just to get a feel for what it's all about, what's the hype all about, what would you recommend I try?
I'd really go after those, like we were talking about earlier, those carbon fiber mid-range, the Expert Series mid-range. They're unique to the point that when they announce them on social media before the parts had ever shipped, other than the ones that Scott Owens had been testing on, and he's done some Insane Asylum has done some videos showing the differences and explaining the differences to consumers. That level of awareness caused people to actually go into their local retailers and to put these on order. Wow. And we had them on, and we had lots on order before, or some on order before the product ever was on our website.
Yeah, I mean, the following is unquestionable. Listen, for those of you tuning in, if you're interested in this DB Drive Euphoria Expert stuff, give the folks at Importel a call. They are the Canadian distributor for all things DB drive, including this Euphoria expert line. Ramesh, I can't thank you enough for coming and joining with me today. We got a good training today, and I think what came out of it is the understanding that Euphoria expert is the real deal. There's a lot of design and influence from key people in the industry, such as the Insane Asylum relationship, and it's certainly worth a try if you're serious about motorcycle audio.
I agree, Ben. Thank you very much for having us on. I love this platform. It's a great way to get the information out to both dealers and consumers. So thank you very much.
We love having you. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. Well, that was a really complete session. Hope you guys learned as much as I did from that. And if you want to learn more about motorcycle audio, well, now's the right time, because we are right into what we call our motorcycle audio sessions. We've got some of the top brands presenting every single day, one brand featured per day, and we're going right through until Friday, April 29th. And that's the motorcycle audio sessions. Of course, we also want to remind you to check out our brandly revamped website, cmanetworks.com, where you could search through hundreds of training videos from your favorite brand, in your favorite category, and even from your favorite trainer. That's it. Thanks for tuning in to this CMA presented by SiriusXM. As usual, I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
Stop it. Yo, roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?